Morning. So this morning I received an email from a friend called Robert Lecasio, whom I'd met at the Vatican a month ago or so, and the email contained a letter from Einstein to his daughter, and it was apparently in a museum in Israel, and the letter is about harnessing the power of love. And in this particular letter, Einstein says to his daughter that more powerful than any force in the universe is the power of love, the energy of love. And that if we could somehow harness it, we would basically heal the world. So I thought I'd share with you, some ideas on harnessing the power of love. Everyone knows what love is. Everyone has experienced love. But when asked to describe, it becomes kind of difficult for people to describe what they mean by love. So, of course, love is experienced at many levels, at the level of being, at the level of feeling, at the level of thought, at the level of speech, at the level of action. All those are different experiences of love. But can we see love as a force in nature? So, subatomic particles, they kind of attract and repel each other, as do atoms, as do molecules, and yet they come together to form a unified whole. Atoms are the relationship between particles. But of course, particles also have antiparticles. And then the tissues in our body are a relationship between the molecules of our body. And on and on. The organs of our body are the relationship of the tissues in our body, and then the body itself is a relationship between the different organs of the body, and our body then is a relationship with everything that we call the universe. Our personal relationships, our social interactions, our environment, nature itself, the trees, the waters, the oceans, the stars, the galaxies. It's all relationship, from the tiniest subatomic particle to the universe. It's all relationship. When there is a connectivity or lack of separation between one so-called part and the other, which are both parts of the unified whole, then we experience love. When there's a sense of separation between a part and the other part, which is also part of the unified whole, then there is fear. So you've frequently heard the expression, love is the opposite of fear, and that's probably a very accurate description, the contrast between love and fear. Fear separates, love unifies. But let's look at this at a deeper level. The great Indian poet said, love is not a mere sentiment, it is the ultimate truth at the heart of the universe. So I'll repeat that. Love is not a mere sentiment, it is the ultimate truth at the heart of the universe. But of course, it can be experienced as sentiment and emotion as well. Let's see then. There could be being love, as I said, feeling love, thinking love, speaking love, creating love, acting love, anything that unifies. The fact of existence is that everything that you look at in existence has a boundary, and yet the boundary is not fully permeable. So the cells in our body, they have little boundaries. They're like little balloons, water, and they have little boundaries. But the boundaries have holes in them. You can say they're semi-permeable, so the cell can communicate with the cell in its neighborhood. And so the boundaries of each cell give it an individuality, just like the boundaries of a molecule give it an individuality. But that individuality couldn't exist without the neighboring cell, with which the cell is constantly in communication, also in communion, in love, because they co-depend on each other for their survival. This is true of all the organs in our body. Your stomach depends on heart for survival, and the heart in turn depends on your stomach for survival, and on and on and on. And similarly, our body is kind of covered with skin, and the skin separates us from each other and from the world. But the skin has holes in it. There's holes here, holes here, hole here. There's the hole at the end of your colon. And what do these holes do? They allow information and energy to go back and forth from the environment in the form of sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. In addition, your skin is actually a semi-permeable membrane. It's derived from the same germ layer as your brain, and the skin communicates with the environment as well. But so does every orifice in our body. And so the environment, which we think is outside, is actually our extended body, because we couldn't survive without it. The oceans are recycling as our circulation. The earth is recycling as our body. Energy and information is recycling as our mind. And at the ground of all this existence, there is only one reality, whatever you want to call it: being, pure consciousness, pure love. And at this level, all opposites are transcended, which means at this level there is no opposite, because, as I said, the level of being is beyond transcendence. So I would say being is the highest level of love. At the level of being, there is no sinner, there is no saint, there is no enemy, and there is no contrast to the enemy, because at the level of being, love just radiates out from you or whoever is in that state of being, like light from a bonfire. It's denied to none, and it's not necessarily focused on anyone, but just radiates like light, and it's the light of awareness. At the level of feeling, love becomes an emotion. It's very powerful. It's the kind of emotion you feel for your child, or for the person you're in love with, or for your parents, or for your religious ideals, or you can feel the same kind of love for your pet or for the world, and that's also extremely powerful. The third level would be the level of thinking, but more in the realm of reflection. How can I experience more love? How can I expand my experience of living in a state of love? How can I receive more love? How can I give more love? And then from reflection, the act of speaking, which is nourishing, so that your speech creates happiness and bliss in those who listen, and your speech is nourishing. And then finally, the action that is motivated as a result of being, feeling, thinking, speaking, and doing. They're all important, but without the experience of being love, there is no feeling love, and then there is no other aspect of love. Love becomes a moral duty. And that's not the way it should be, because if love is a moral duty, then, anything that you think you have to do because it's a compulsion, then that, of course, doesn't happen. If it's a compulsion, you won't want to do it. But if it comes naturally, it'll be there. Well, we have discussed in previous posts, how the love in our being moves through stages of attraction, infatuation or focused awareness, communion, surrender, intimacy, passion, ecstasy. I've done that in a previous post. I can expand on that. But as we move through these stages of love and as we experience them, there is healing. Because healing, as I've said previously, is the return of the memory of wholeness. The little cell remembers it's part of the wholeness of the body. And the body remembers that it is part of the ecosystem of the earth. And as we expand that awareness, there's the restoration of memory that we are all actually the total universe localized in a living, breathing, metabolizing body. But the body is not a thing, it's a process in the wholeness of existence. It's interesting that that word whole is related to the word holy, W-H-O-L-E, holy, all inclusive. So love and healing are the same thing, and love and awakening are the same thing. Awakening means that you are awakening to your real identity, which is love. And every other aspect of love that we can think of is an expression to that true self. So compassion and joy and empathy and healing and peace are all related to love. So, as I visited the Vatican with a few friends of mine, I also absorbed the energy of love over there, because Pope Francis is nothing other than the embodiment of love and tenderness. In fact, those are the two mantras at the Vatican right now: love and tenderness. Do you think we could harness the power of love and tenderness together, global level? And this would transcend every religion, every race, every national identity. Do you think it's possible? If you think it's possible, then of course it's possible. If you think it's impossible, then of course it will be impossible. Let's reflect on this, and let's go back and forth on this, because I think we could create a movement. We could create a global movement harnessing the power of love and tenderness, as His Holiness Pope Francis has expressed, but there is no reason to limit it to one particular religion or race or nationality or ethnic boundary, because all boundaries are there to give you a sense of individuality, but the boundaries, as I said, also are semi-permeable. They connect you with all that exists. So let me end this podcast today with a little interesting insight that I had. I go to yoga class every day, and my instructor, Sarah, had a cold. And she was very afraid of passing on the cold to me, which she had acquired from her daughter, who goes to school, who's, very young. And I said not to worry, and of course, today I noticed that I have a cold. But what does that tell us? That tells us, and of course I'm going to pass it on to somebody else, and in a way this cold is the communicating agent, the virus, that is reminding me of my inseparability with all that exists. And I'm going to pass it on, and all our immune systems are going to get stronger. But the point is, even if somebody doesn't have a cold, the very act of breathing connects us with them. It's one atmosphere, okay, and we call it our breath. But we share that atmosphere, and ultimately that breath connects us with everybody, every living thing. So if somebody is smoking 20 feet away, then I can smell the smoke because I'm inhaling his breath, even though he's 20 feet away. And then, of course, I'm exhaling that and communicating it to everybody else. So we're connected. Whether you have a cold or not, we are part of one breath. We are part of one stream of circulation. The trees are our lungs, and the stars and galaxies with their light is the source, the sun of energy that we ultimately eat through the plants. We are connected to the sun. At this moment, your body wouldn't be there if it wasn't that. We are connected to the gravitational forces. The strong interactions in the atom bring all the protons together and with the neutrons create the nucleus of the atom. And even though these protons that are made of quarks and so on, because they have positive charges, they should be repelling each other, but they don't, because they're held together by something called the strong force. What is the strong force, if not love? What is gravity, if not love? What is the electromagnetic field that I'm using right now to communicate with you, if not love? What is the universe, if not love? So let's hope we can create an epidemic, maybe a pandemic of love by harnessing the forces of love that already exist. It is our fear that comes from being tight and holding on to just your personal identity, which is part of a larger identity, that prevents us from having that experience. So in the New Testament, the Sermon on the Mount is all about love. When Jesus says, I am in you, you are in me, I and the Father are one, it's all about love. Love is the only truth at the heart of the universe, and if we can harness this power, it will lead to goodness, beauty, evolution, compassion, empathy, peace, and ultimately healing. Let's reflect on this. Let's feel it. Let's be it. And finally, let's act on it, because love without action ultimately is meaningless, and action without love is irrelevant. But when you combine the two, we can heal the world. I'm going to think about this, these three things: love, healing, awakening, and how this can be harnessed together with everyone that we know. I'm also communicating with my dear friends at the Vatican and with other luminaries on how to do this. So with your help, let's do this. Let's create a love that ripples across the vast ocean of consciousness and heals the world. Thank you, and I'll be in touch.